There's big, there's massive, and then there's this thing, a machine so ridiculously long it could block traffic across a small town. A machine that doesn't just carry freight, it swallows entire shipping containers and keeps going. This isn't some concept sketch or a Photoshop fever dream. This is the world's longest road train, and it's real. It's so big, so heavy, so outrageously overbuilt. It takes 8 roaring diesel engines just to get it rolling. It happened in the heart of the Australian Outback, where normal trucks go to die and only the toughest survive. This monster wasn't built for city streets or gentle highways. It was designed for one reason only: to pull as much freight as humanly possible across brutal terrain in the fewest trips possible. Think of it as a rolling freight train with no tracks, no rail lines, no rules, just pure raw transport power. The year was 2006, and the beast was created by the mad geniuses at Mack Trucks in collaboration with John Atkinson Transport. The goal? To break the Guinness World Record for the longest road train ever to operate on a public road. This wasn't a scaled down gimmick either. We're talking about an actual working machine with real loads and live engines. At the front of the operation was a Mack Titan Prime Mover, a heavy-duty workhorse with a reputation for being tough as nails. But this wasn't any ordinary Titan. It was outfitted with a 16-liter, 600-horsepower MP10 diesel engine, and that's just where the madness started. Behind it were 112 trailers, strung together like a steel caterpillar that stretched over 4,136 feet long, nearly 1 mile in total length. That's longer than the Empire State Building is tall. You could lay this truck down next to an airport runway and it would still run out of space. And to make it move, not just one engine, not 2, but 8 engines spread throughout the length of the train, each one wired up and ready to push, pull, and power the absurd weight behind it. The total weight, over 1,300 tons. That's more than 2 fully loaded Boeing 747s, being dragged across the desert by a single road warrior. But it's not just about raw length or brute force. What made this machine so fascinating was how it was operated. See, when you've got that many trailers behind you, every small movement at the front creates a massive ripple effect in the back. You're not just driving, you're piloting. Braking isn't braking, it's strategic deceleration. Turning isn't a matter of wheel movement, it's geometry and physics. Praying you don't jackknife or take out a fence. And forget regular highways. This thing needed flat, wide open stretches of remote roads just to test. The drivers had to communicate with radio support, and they couldn't even attempt the run unless weather conditions were near perfect. One unexpected gust of wind or loose surface could send trailers swinging like wrecking balls. On the day of the record-breaking attempt, crowds lined the dirt roads outside of Clifton, Queensland. The sun was brutal, the temperature rising, and tension hung in the air. The 8-engine rig fired up, trailers groaned into motion, and slowly, painfully slowly, the train began to move, inch by inch, tire by tire, until the whole 1,300-ton beast was rumbling forward in a rolling thunder of diesel and dust. It reached a verified speed of 5 kilometers per hour. Not exactly fast, but that wasn't the point. The point was, it moved. Guinness officials confirmed it. The longest road train ever pulled by a single truck on a public road. Record broken. History made. But here's where things get even crazier. This wasn't some one-time publicity stunt. Road trains like this, maybe not this extreme, but still monstrous, are part of everyday life in Australia. It's one of the few places on Earth where regulations actually allow triple and even quad trailer setups to run legally on certain routes. Why? Because the distances are insane and the terrain is unforgiving. In the Outback, if you want to survive economically, you've got to haul big or go home broke. The Mack Titan road train inspired a whole generation of mega haulers. While the 8-engine version was a special build, scaled-down versions with 2 or 3 trailers became common sights in places like Northern Territory and Western Queensland. These weren't novelty items, these were lifelines. They carried cattle, fuel, mining equipment, and groceries, often to towns hundreds of miles from the nearest city. And the drivers, some of the toughest people on the planet. Imagine hauling 100 tons through 45-degree heat across gravel with no one around for hours, no shoulder to pull over, no cell phone signal, just you, your rig, and the road stretching to infinity. There are stories of road train drivers navigating firestorms, floodwaters, and even wildlife stampedes in the middle of nowhere, and every one of them has a favorite truck. For many, the Mack Titan holds a legendary spot on that list, but that record-breaking moment when 8 engines roared to life and pulled the longest truck ever built was something else entirely. It was a symbol of what humans could do when limits were thrown out the window. And believe it or not, that was just the beginning. Now, while that record-breaking Mack Titan with 112 trailers was a feat of engineering insanity, it wasn't a one-off novelty. It was the natural extreme of a trucking culture that treats distance like an afterthought and payload like a challenge. In the Australian Outback, these monstrous road trains aren't just machines, they're lifelines. They keep remote communities alive and industrial operations running, and the people who drive them, they're not just truckers, they're specialists in handling the impossible. After the Guinness World Record moment, the trucking world took notice. Engineers, logistics experts, and trucking enthusiasts around the world started studying the configuration, the coupling methods, the engine placements, even the braking synchronization, because pulling 1 mile of trailers with over 1,300 tons of rolling weight isn't just about torque, it's about control. It's about stability, fuel management, and knowing when to apply power and when to let gravity do the work. But here's the part that makes this whole thing even crazier. Australia didn't stop with just one super rig. Over the years, road trains evolved from the iconic triple trailer setups to modular multi-combination monsters. Designs like the AB Triple, BAB Quad, and A double with converter dollies became the standard for moving fuel, ore, grain, and livestock across vast empty stretches of desert. These setups might not break records on length alone, but they're optimized for the harshest conditions on Earth. Some carry more than 180 tons per run, over distances of 1,000 miles or more, often through temperatures above 100 degrees Atau. These trucks must be self-sufficient, carrying extra tires, toolkits, spare parts, and survival gear. Because if you break down in the middle of nowhere, no 8AA is coming to rescue you. One of the most iconic companies operating these beasts is Lindsay Transport, known for hauling refrigerated freight across Queensland and Northern Territory. Their road trains often carry produce from farms to city markets without a single breakdown or delay. Then there's Barrow Island LNG, where trucks operate under high-risk regulations while moving hazardous liquefied gas, often in multi-unit combinations. And the rigs? Not just Mack, you'll see Kenworth T909s, Western Star 6900 FX, and even Volvo FH16s re-engineered for remote operation. Some are custom built with reinforced chassis, dual fuel tanks, and reinforced air filtration to keep the engines breathing even in dust storms thick enough to block the sun. Inside the cabs, you'll find drivers with 30+ years behind the wheel. Men and women who live in their trucks for days at a time, cooking in mini stoves, sleeping in tiny bunks, and showering at dusty rest stops hours apart. They're part navigator, part mechanic, part survivalist. Most of them don't use GPS. They know the terrain by memory, by feel, by intuition that only thousands of hours on the road can teach. And make no mistake, driving a road train is a mental battle as much as it is physical. You don't just cruise. You constantly manage sway, watch your tire heat, scan for animals, and anticipate wind gusts that can throw the entire train off balance. Every overtake requires calculations. Every corner must be wide, deliberate, and slow. You're not just operating a vehicle, you're managing an entire moving system across one of the most unforgiving places on the planet. And yet, despite the sheer power and weight of these machines, there's a strange grace to how they move. Watch one pass, and it's like watching a steel serpent sliding across the earth. The trailers follow one another like dancers in formation. Smooth, precise, controlled. It's mechanical poetry at scale. Some setups even include steerable rear axles on the last trailers, remote controlled by the lead driver or automated by gyroscopic systems. That means trailers at the back actively steer themselves, reducing swing and keeping the entire train inside road boundaries, even on curves. This isn't brute force alone, it's advanced coordination between human and machine. But perhaps what's most mind-blowing is how economical these megatrucks actually are. When done properly, a road train can cut emissions per ton of freight moved, reduce the need for additional vehicles, and slash fuel costs by up to 30% compared to smaller rigs doing multiple trips. That's why the model is now being studied in parts of North America and Africa, where long-distance freight is expensive and infrastructure thin. Yet no matter how modern they get, nothing quite compares to that original 112 trailer Titan from 2006. That beast wasn't just long, it was outrageous, unhinged, and absolutely unforgettable. A demonstration of what happens when you stop asking what's legal and start asking what's possible. And it left behind a legacy. Every time a massive rig rolls through the Outback with 4 or 5 trailers, every time a new record attempt is made, or a driver threads 50 tons of cattle through the desert in 45 degrees heat, that spirit lives on, because in the end, the world's longest road train wasn't just a machine, it was a message that distance, heat, and weight can all be conquered, that logistics doesn't need rails, and that when humans and machines truly work as one, there's no such thing as too big.